So, my name is Chris Burnett. This is ethnic class 117, African Origins of Religions and Philosophy, spring 2022. My professor is Dr. George, and this is the midterm, so let's dive into it. So the first question is, introduce a scholarly work you share with a community member. So I shared a couple texts and course material with the person I was interviewing, and some of the things I explained to him was Diop, the historian who focused much on Egypt as a black civilization. He was a black historian who basically proved that there were Africans in Egypt. And and I also explained Ma'at, which is an integrative concept which finds expression at very inceptions of Egyptian theology and cosmology, a concept in which new ideas of Ma'at using the cosmic force of harmony, order, stability, and security, organizing quality of creation. And much of Ma'at has to do with a lot of the early Egyptian civilization and philosophy. So it's kind of just going down that path and just cultivating the shift and just being one with your soul and being one with nature to say you are Ma'at or you are Afrocentric, as one would say. And then a lot of other text material I gave him, I explained Shattered Consciousness by Wade Nobles, which just explains Eurocentrism just being diluted throughout the course of history, and how us not being European, people that look like me, myself not being European, how there's a lot of fallacies and false narratives of what's the truth out there about history. So Shattered Consciousness it's just explaining a lot about the consciousness of being black in America, almost as if W.E.B. Du Bois did, just like double consciousness, or like the famous tale, The Miseducation of the Negro. So I just feel that as well. So so the second question of the midterm is, provide details on how they reacted to your discussion and information, and provide what information you share with them, and provide how could Africana Studies support service learning to general communities. So the information I share with him, I basically just said it all, but I also shared more information. I shared about Afrocentricity in the education system and Eurocentricity in the education system, as well as Set Yourself Free, the book we were reading. So that's for the second question. And then, how could Africana Studies support service learning to the general community? I feel like the Africana Studies I've recently came upon I feel as if it helps my community, or it helps myself, uplift myself, and I kind of don't see myself as 12 years as a slave. I almost see myself as an Egyptian king or Ma'at. I just feel like to Africana Studies, there's much people to look up to, such as athletes and like the presidents, but I feel like for Africana Studies, going back into your history and seeing where people saw the truth in what others were saying, and due to hate and just oppression and systematic racism, it was burned down. We were never given a chance to look and read for ourselves to find out the true history of ourselves. So that was kind of mind-blowing as well. And I just feel like with that philosophy, it just helps the community, because at the end of the day, like, I'm of the diaspora, but there's still intercontinental Africans who still need this philosophy as much, and then other African Americans who don't have the education tools I'm privileged enough to have. So and then the third question of the midterm, explain the difference between Afrocentricity and Eurocentricity as it relates to education. So this is what I said for Afrocentricity. Sorry. So Afrocentricity argues that for centuries, Africans and other non-whites have been dominated through slavery and colonization by Europeans, and that European culture is at best irrelevant and at worst opposed to efforts by non-Europeans to achieve self-determination. For this reason, according to Afrocentrism, people of African descent need to develop an appreciation of the achievements of traditional African civilizations. Indeed, they need to articulate their own history and their own system of values. So Afrocentricity is basically finding what makes you tick. You're almost as if, I want to say you're kind of like a black nationalist, but it's more holistically, just you need to bring in that Mayotte factor into the Afrocentricity. And then I'm going to explain Eurocentricity or Eurocentrism. It's a worldview that is centered on Western civilization or a biased view that favors over non-Western civilizations. The exact scope of Eurocentrism varies from the entire Western world to just the continent of Europe, or even more nearly to Western Europe. And with Eurocentrism, I feel like we get a lot on Western Europe, but Europe is a whole continent. So I just feel like within Europe, there's many more ideals that just preach negative racist rhetoric among African Americans to put others down we might not even know of. So I feel like if this is just Western civilization, what's the other civilization looking like? The fourth question is, explain the importance of understanding epistemology and worldview as it relates to philosophy and spiritual systems in the African tradition. And then African epistemology relates to our course material and spiritual system of beliefs because Eurocentric ideals have brainwashed majority of our society, making Africans of the diaspora and intercontinental Africans conform to the masses and embrace European philosophy due to 400 years of oppression from our own culture, education, and lifestyle. Anthony T. Browder, as well as other Black Afrocentric educators, W.E.B. Du Bois, Booker T. Washington, Marcus Garvey, the list goes on and on and on. They explain these techniques. And then I probably gotta redo that, bro. I probably gotta redo that, bro. Actually, no. Is it still going? The idea of epistemology is the idea of knowledge with using methods, validity, and sociological perspectives to differentiate justified belief from opinions. And then, what is a symbol of balance, truth, justice, and order in the ancient Kemetic? Yeah, so let me redo the question, sorry. What is a symbol of balance, truth, justice, and order in the ancient Kemetic tradition of spirituality and social order? And I feel like that symbol is Mayotte, because throughout our text, throughout a lot of the course material, we learn about the philosophy of Mayotte and how one person is capable of a harmony as a social practice and flourishing best in the context of harmony with God, nature, and other humans. So I feel like Mayotte is just a philosophy or a sociological perspective in ancient Egypt, where the ancient Egypts who were African used it, and it's just being cultivated to the new shift of us. Yeah, that's it.